All right, people, it is lesson 68 today, visual representations of percents. So hopefully by now, after having done this for a few days, a few percents are sticking in your head, like what percentage is a half? It's 50. What percentage is a quarter? 25, like 25 cents. What percentage is, what is 3/4? 75 cents. What is a fifth? Decimal 2. You need to remember some of those for today, okay? So in the first one, you've got a bar. Oh, scratchy. It's cut in half, and they want you to, and they're asking you what is shaded, right? Well, it's clearly half. Now, so you could just write 50%, right? But if you don't know, if you haven't memorized those few percentages, what you could do is go, okay, well, it's a half, and then get it to a decimal percent over 10, right? So 2 to 10 is times 5, so 5/10, which is decimal 50. So you could figure out your decimal that way if you don't automatically know that it's 50%. Okay? So remember, in some of the harder ones, you're going to want to go like in F. Okay? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I don't know if I can draw it, but I'll try. Okay? Well, that was pretty good, Carrie. Good job. Okay, so you got something that sort of looks like that. It's longer and skinnier, but in any case, it's 20 boxes, right? And they've shaded in 4 there. Hi, Indiana. 4 there, and I don't know, 2 in there, right? So they've shaded in, okay, go on. They've shaded 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 20. 10 out of 20 is not in lowest terms, so you have to reduce it. Now for me, I know I can just cross out those 2 zeros and I end up with 1 over 2, but you also could go, well, 10 goes into 20 1 times and 10 goes into 22 times, so a half. And that should tell you 50%. The other thing you can do is look at how much is shaded, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and look at how much is not shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it's equal, it's clearly a half, okay? So 50%. All right, pause the video, go to number 1. Number 2, I am not even drawing this, shade 50% of the rectangle. You should by now know 50% is half, so shade half of each. Pause the video. Okay, number 3, write different expressions for the shaded area. Again, you guys have had a wickedly easy week. They've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4, right? A 20 box shaded, and they've shaded this. The first part of the question is they ask you what is shaded out of 20. Well, I mean, come on. It couldn't be any easier. Then change it into over 100, right? So how did I get from 20 to 100? Do the same on the top. And then they want you to change this into a decimal something and then into a percent. You can do all of this. So I'm not working through it with you. We've done it a million times in the last, well, maybe not a million, but we've done it a lot. So I have full confidence you can do that on your own. Pause the video. Okay, number 4, write the percents that are equivalent to the fractions. So it doesn't say you're not allowed to use a calculator, so just go and use a calculator. So I'll give you a hint. The first one is 0 out of 10. Well, guess what? It's 0. I have nothing, right? And then they have 2/5 marked, okay? So just go 2 divided by 5 on your calculator and put the decimal there, okay? The next one is a half, which you should not need to figure out. You should just know that a half is this percent, okay? Other than that, And like the last one is 10 out of 10, and I have told you this before, if I have a pizza and it's cut into 10 slices and I have the whole thing, I have 1 pizza. So this is equal to 1. All right, pause the video, go do number 4. Okay, number 5, measure the line segment. So they've got a line, and they're telling you that this is 50%. So to make 100%, I would need to measure this line and say it's 2 centimeters long. If I make another 2 centimeters, I'd have another 50%, which would be 100%. Okay? The second one, the next one, it's 20%. Okay? So you've got a line, and this is 20%. So if I measure this line, and let's just use 2 again because it's easy, and then I add another 2 centimeters, well, now I've got 40%. I add another 2 centimeters, I've got 60%. I gotta get to 100. So you gotta figure out how many of these make 100. How many 20s make 100? And then you need that many line segments to make 100%. Okay? Same thing. Now the last one, you've got a long piece and they're saying it's 75%. So I'm going to guess that whatever this line, however long this line is, it's a multiple of 3. Because 75 is 3/4, right? So we have to figure out how long this line is. Let's say it's 9 centimeters long, right? And then divide it by 3 to figure out how much each of these is worth, because we need, this is 3/4, 75% is 3/4, so we need to add 1/4, which means we need to take this piece, divide it into quarters. There are 3 of them, so we're going to divide it by 3, and then we can add 1 more on the end. Okay, so say this was 9 centimeters, that means that this is 3 centimeters, this is 3 centimeters, and this is 3 centimeters. I add another 3 centimeters, and I end up with 100%, right? So you do it with the math on the sheet, because I don't know what the sheet actually is. Okay, pause the video. Number 6, estimate the percentage of the line segment to the left of the mark. All right, so we've got a line, and it's got a mark here. Well, the first thing I ask myself is it more or less than half? This, I would say half is like, I don't know, there-ish. So it's more than half, right? So that means it's more than 50. But is it 60, 70, 80? Now I would say, well, where would 75 be? Because if I divide my line into 4 pieces, this would be 50, this would be 75, right? So it's not 75, so is it closer to 50 or closer to 75? I would say it's closer to 50. So I would think, okay, is it 60? Is it 65? That's a judgment call. You need to look at how close it is to 50 to try to figure out which number it would be. Okay, pause the video, go do number 6. 3 left. Okay, number 7, 20 meters squared of a 50 meter square field. Okay. So here's our field, it's 50 meters squared. 20, okay, so if this is 50, try to draw it a little bit to scale. I don't know, let's call it there. This is 20 meters squared, and that's for growing potatoes. What fraction and percentage of the field is this? So it's 20 out of 50. Right? It's 20 square meters out of 50 square meters. So I know that I can just cross out those 2 zeros. What I actually did was divide by 10, but the easy way is to just go no 0 for you and no 0 for you. And I end up with 2/5. Okay? Now, there's a number of ways you could have done this. So how do I get from, let's go from 5 to 10 to a decimal fraction. So I'm timesing 2, so I end up with 4/10, which is decimal 4, right? But you have to remember that this is not 4%. This is 40%. 4% would be 0.04, 4 in the hundredths column. I actually have 40 hundredths because I have 4 columns of 10, right? 4 tenths is actually 40 hundredths. All right, I did the whole question for you. Boo me. Okay, number 8. David has run 4 kilometers of a 20-kilometer race. He's run 4 kilometers out of 20 kilometers. What fraction and percent has he completed? What's he left to run? Okay, so he has completed 4 out of 20. So we gotta get this to 100. So I can go from 20 to 100 by timesing 5. So I times 5 on the top, and I end up with 20 out of 100, which is 20%. Does it ask me for a decimal? Nope, fraction and percent. So I've got a fraction, I've got a percent. If he has completed 20%, what does he have left? It's always out of 100. You can figure that out. Okay, pause the video, come back for number 9. Number 9, when would you use the measurement to describe the amount, and when would you use the percent, if ever? Write a sentence using each expression. Okay. Can you think of a time when you would use the expression 3 hours of the school day? Write a sentence about it. 3 hours of the school day is wasted. 3 hours of the school day happens before lunch. Anything like that, okay? Would you ever say 50% of the school day? Sure. 50% of the school day is spent on breaks and gym. I don't know. But sure, I would use that term. So think of a sentence to use for that. Second one, 12 kilograms of berries. Can you think of a time you would use a sentence with 12 kilograms of berries in it? Yes, I would say 12 kilograms of berries, like if you were making a recipe for jam. You might say, I need 12 kilos of berries, right? Or 40% of the berries. Would you ever say that? Yeah, I can think of a time when, say, there's a spring storm and a farmer would say we lost 40% of the berries. So I would use all 4 of those. I don't know if you're supposed to, but it all makes sense to me. So have a good day.